My name is Hank Kersey. I'm the military advisor for Call of Duty. You're watching GRTV. Welcome to Leipzig.
So, Total War is moving on to a little bit more modern era.
Yeah.
How's that changed the development for you guys?
Okay, well, in development terms, probably the biggest challenge for us was adding the naval gameplay element of the game. That takes a lot of time to make sure the gameplay works, and balance, and of course you've got to add a lot of new technology in as well. I mean, to give you an example, it took us a year just to get the C to be correctly coded, so it looked really, really beautiful, it looked realistic, and that's also to try and help bring the overhead down so it works on a variety of PCs. So technology-wise, Empire has been a massive leap forward for us. We've completely rewritten the engine that does the graphics, and that includes obviously the naval component as well. But there's a load more technology gone into the sort of the campaign end as well when it comes to the artificial intelligence. The battle AI has been rewritten entirely. The campaign end has sort of been kind of done from the ground up as well, and that we've added trade and diplomacy that we've never had before, in sort of much greater depth. So yeah, in development terms, it's a pretty big leap forward.
You mentioned the naval battles. Can you give us a little bit like insight on how deep that is? Because I was amazed at how deep that was when I saw it the first time.
Yeah, how deep is the ocean? Okay, right. Well, yeah, in that perspective, it's a very tactical experience. We didn't want to just kind of clip on naval battles. We've traditionally done very intense, very polished kind of land battles, and we wanted to make sure we had the same level of detail and the same level of attention paid to the naval stuff as well. So, for example, there are full weather systems in the naval element as well as there are in the land. So, wind direction and wind speed affects how your ships move and how they handle kind of the state of the oceans itself, like the height of the waves, or move your ships up and down and toss them around and send them out of position. You've also got elements like driving rain and low fog and snow and so on and so forth. And all these things have an effect on the morale of the crew, the firing rate of the ships, the kind of proximity the ships can fire at, and all that sort of thing. So when you add into that the variety of ships we got, in addition to the sort of tactics and formations you can employ and the movements you can pursue as a player, it really is a very rich and sort of varied experience, and you're fighting a variety of different factions across the entirety of the world's oceans, so you'll fight in very rough conditions in the North Sea against some established European powers, for example, who will favour certain tactics and certain types of boats. You'll then go on to fight in the Caribbean against other factions, much calmer seas and clear blue skies or starry night skies, again, very good weather but very little wind. Again, making all of those kind of tactical choices as a player, the composition of your fleets, the movement of your boats, very important. So yes, it's a very in-depth and kind of, a good homage to the rest of the series, I think. Because of the physics system we put in, which is, like I say, incredibly detailed and realistic underneath the surface, whereby you can take grape shot across the deck of an enemy ship. Now, of course, if you fire at almost point-blank range, a lot of that shot is going to carry on across that deck and into another enemy ship. So if the enemy's put itself in a formation where its ships are in a line and you get across the side there and you hit them with a good volley of fire, you'll see that carry on and kill members of the crew on boats behind the ones that you've targeted. Additionally, that comes in with things like fire, for example. So if you manage to set light to a ship and it's in very close proximity to another ship and the wind is blowing in a direction across their decks, you can actually have the fire blow across from one deck onto another, and you can end up with a whole line of ships ablaze just because you've managed to get them in the right position. Of course, the same thing can happen to you if you're not careful. So now, with the move over to gunpowder, it makes our players think much more tactically about how they use their forces. So it's all about arcs of fire and range and distance, the kind of the proper use of artillery, about the movement of units around the map, and kind of positioning people properly and getting them in for maximum effect. Melee is still important and it's still involved in the game. Certainly this was the age of the bayonet just as much as it was the age of the musket. And what that means in sort of real gameplay terms is that, when you wait to see the whites of their eyes, fix bayonets and kind of engage in hand-to-hand combat, it's pretty brutal and pretty bloody. But again, it's all about, as a commander, learning that new mechanic and working out the best way to play. And again, like I say, with the improvements we've made in the AI system, you'll never play the same game twice. So, different factions have different types of tactics they'll employ, different levels of aggression. Individual generals within those factions will favour different styles and different types of formations, and you'll end up sort of competing against these people across the known world. So you may be fighting, say, I don't know, the French in Europe, and you'll fight a French general there, and maybe 20, 30 years later you'll come across the same general in North America, and you'll be like, I remember you, and he'll keep using the tactic he used against you, bouncing cannonballs or something like that. And the AI is that much more reactive and less predictable this time around. So it really leads to a very, very interesting kind of gunpowder experience. And I mean, I know for some of our established fans, they were worried that the move from melee combat to gunpowder would kind of, really change the game, or, in some cases they feared for the worst. But it certainly doesn't, and it's something that we've been balancing all the way through, and want to make sure that it's really fun to play and great fun to, to watch and be involved in. But equally, like I said, we've made sure that melee does have a very important place in the way that you play the game.